Day 3 of NAB, and we're back with DanMay of Blackmagic Design talking about the host of cameras that were announced on Monday. Dan, thanks for joining us on Donald Talks Technology.
I'm very glad to be with you once again.
Once again, back together again. So, last year I called you insane.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, this year you're like a lost cause.
I think that we would bring 80 products if we had enough engineering time. So, some 16 or so press releases, 38 new SKUs. We've been staying busy in the development and continue to try to get great products that people want to see at the show. So far the feedback's been tremendous.
So you started off at the presser on Monday. Grant Petty took the stage, and the first thing he showed off was the URSA Mini.
Yeah, the URSA Mini is something that we're excited to get out there. We knew last year when we brought out URSA, we wanted to have that big kind of full-size camera that multiple people could work with and around, have that turret sensor upgrade ability. We thought was going to be tremendously important. We knew we'd be able to do higher frame rates because of the body and the style of the URSA, but it's always kind of funny to have people come to the show and they love it, but we had a number of people that were like, oh, but it's so big and it's so heavy. And of course in the back of our mind we're like, well, we know because we have these plans for URSA Mini to have this great single person kind of handheld camera that is, people just look at it and they say, I totally get it. It's a run and gun. I can throw it on the tripod. I can throw it on my shoulder. I can just run it around handheld. So it's great to be able to get to the show and everyone says, oh, it's so great. You listened to what we all said, and this is the camera I've been waiting for and looking for. And that is all true. We obviously have taken a tremendous amount of feedback into the development of this camera, and to be able to show up with that and have the new 4.6K sensor. These are big announcements that alone would have made the Blackmagic booth kind of buzzing with anticipation. So
yeah, if you just had it with just the URSA Mini, that would have been enough. But then you came out with the micro cinema camera.
Yeah, we're always looking at how we can kind of further push ourselves. And one of the things that we've noticed with our cameras is that because of the cost, quite honestly, because of the cost of these cameras, people put them in a lot of different situations that maybe we didn't expect or anticipate. And at the cost of some of these cameras, people had been putting them, of course, on drones or in underwater housing, using them as crash cams, tucking them into little corners of the car. So we thought to ourselves, what can we do to kind of make a pocket camera that could basically do that a bit better? And that's where we got to the micro cinema camera,
which is essentially a pocket cinema camera in a more compact form factor with a few extra things.
Yeah, the big differences between it and the pocket camera are that number one, it's designed so that all the transport controls are on the front, so I don't have to be behind the when you think about how you're going to use it with the pocket camera, I'm designed to always kind of be behind the camera. I see on the monitor and I have all my transport controls back there. Whereas on the micro cinema camera, there is no screen on there at all. It's basically meant to be, kind of perhaps pre-set up, and then I'm going to go ahead and just hit record on the front and see my tally light come on. Or we've got this great expansion port, and that's where we can go ahead and go out. And we can have all these command protocols to start, stop, focus, assist. So when you talk about putting it up on a drone and being able to send all those protocols out wirelessly down to someone with a controller so that I can actually adjust everything on that camera while it's up on a drone, or perhaps in an underwater housing where I can have those controls being physically done there. So that's a big shift from the actual pocket camera model. And then of course we came out with our video assist product so that we have this other screen that we can kind of bring along with it so that we can do any adjustments we need to do, pull it off. If we put it in the corner of the car, but I need to check to make sure my focus is good, I can have that monitor off to the side as opposed to having to be behind the camera. So, really great development that we've done there. And, at the same $995 price, we are looking forward to seeing what crazy things happen with that camera. I'm sure we're going to see people using it for a ton of different stuff we haven't even thought about yet.
Yeah, but you did. It does seem like you designed it for drone operations.
Well, we know that there's a great opportunity there. Obviously, drones are something that's big at NAB this year. We see it out there, and so first and foremost, being able to have it at that weight and form and function, that's kind of the layup. But when you start talking about a $995 camera that can record in ProRes and raw recording like our original pocket camera, to have that very post-production friendly compression, but then able to change the optics. This is the big thing that separates it from the action cameras, which are great, but to be able to have the optics on there to be able to do, various MFT-based lenses.
Right, because it's micro four thirds.
It's still the micro four thirds, so you're going to have that great cinema style. You're going to have that great compression for post-production. That's something that was the layup. Now we just got to see what else everyone's going to want to do with it.
When I first saw it on the banner, because when on the day before NAB when we flew in, all of a sudden these pictures started flooding Twitter, these banners centers, and everybody was going, "Is Blackmagic making a drone?" But it ended up being the camera itself. But the camera is like, I was holding out for a pocket 4K pocket, but this is much better.
Yeah, we wanted to, we knew the drone was going to be the auto connection where people would say like, oh, I totally get it. Again, it gets that initial like, I see what they're doing there. The big reason we couldn't do the 4K on there is because we needed to do the recording on there, which is kind of why we ended up doing the Micro Studio camera 4K.
That was where I was going next. Was you took that same Micro Cinema design and then you applied it towards the studio camera with a 4K camera. And how did that come about?
Well, it's essentially that exact reason, because there was two things we were able to kind of do with the one step. On the one hand, we knew, obviously, we're taking this feedback that people are giving us. We knew there was a desire to see a pocket 4K camera, but again, to get that to actually happen in that size is not as easy as just making that happen. So we did the micro cinema camera knowing we could do the HD in that size, and then the Studio 4K camera we could do because we don't have to do any recording on there, so we could essentially use the same body style and get the 4K sensor in there. The other big thing that we had seen was that last year when we came to NAB, we had impressed people with these amazing studio cameras that we had built, but we got so much feedback from guys who are like, this is great because it's affordable and it has the tally and the talkback and the CCU control. The only problem is I don't have a bunch of operators. I'm just putting a bunch of cameras out there and I don't need the big screen. I don't need some of that functionality. So okay, here's a couple things we can do here. We can make this 4K camera in this small shape, but if there's not an operator there, we don't need the big screen, so we can use the same body. I've seen plenty of studios that are guys that are doing just streaming stuff, and they just have 6 or 7 fixed cameras that are being cut between. Still have all my great color shading, I still have my great tally light on there, and the other great thing is because we have that same expansion port, one of the other big things folks have wanted to do was to put, that's a micro four thirds lens on there, but they do a B4 to micro four thirds adapter to get the fast glass on there, but they lose the iris control because they can't communicate through the micro four thirds. Well, now we can add that back in by using the expansion port. So using that same body, we're able to knock out a couple things: small camera, 4K, expansion port for the B4 adapter, and then being able to have, a great studio camera that doesn't have an operator behind it. So, it was a great kind of luck of development to kind of fill a couple of needs with a couple of products there.
And you also had, now you had 16 or so
16
products,
yeah.
38
SKUs, yeah.
So let's round out the hit parade here.
The big thing is
the
that
the Terranex Mini.
The big thing is we looked at our line and realized we needed to do 12 gig SDI. We had started last year with our first Terranex product, and 12 gigs SDI is important because especially in the broadcast space, people are waiting to invest until they have high frame rates for Ultra HD, and that's what 12 gig SDI is going to give us, the ability to have a high frame rate Ultra HD and be able to get that over, a single SDI cable. So there's a number of new products you see in there that are a little less glamorous. There's a new ATEM, there's a new video hub, there's a number of new I/O products, and they're all 12 gigs kind of updates.
The things only studio engineers would be excited about.
Only things studio engineers, and they're not as sexy as, say, cameras, but the Terranex Minis are really important, and they are good looking, and people can look at and say, I totally get that product.
And it's definitely mini.
They're
small.
And they're definitely small, and we had wanted to do those 12 gig converters like our traditional converters, but again, 12 gig runs hot, so we needed to build a bigger box. So again, how can we knock out a couple of different needs that we have? And one of them was to have rack-mounted kind of mini converters. So the idea here of being able to have the extra space for that 12 gig heat and thermal capacity, but be able to have that unit sit on the desk or be able to put 3 of them in a 1RU system. So have this whole new line of Terranex Minis. Great to have either the powered Ethernet can power them, or they have their own power adapter. They have software that can control them. They have dip switches to control them. You can get them with that panel, so you can have the great LCD. We know that people like to see LCDs in racks, so they know things are working and have adjustments there. So, $500 for the base models, and then $900 to have the 12 gig fiber. That's how we solve the other 12 gig problem, which is distance, because the 12 gig SDI can't go as far as traditional SDI can. So we knew we needed to have fiber in there to be able to have, if I'm going to build a building or a stadium or be running long distance, we need that 12 gig fiber. So we're getting there with that as well. So
that's really where that 4K studio camera will come in handy. I could see you putting those all around like a football stadium.
Yeah, exactly. We want to be able to kind of do what SDI, and that's the great part about this SDI protocol over fiber, is it feels like traditional SDI, but it's fiber, and fiber is not that expensive, and it can be run by anybody. We can have just regular contractors go in and put fiber in an installation. So we think that's going to be a big part of the solution when we talk about high frame rate Ultra HD. So a number of new SKUs that you're going to see throughout there that are 12 gig SDI, which are exciting to us. Obviously, cameras take a lot of air out of the room. So
yeah, it does. But what are you going to do? So all right. Well, to summarize, we've got the Blackmagic URSA Mini, which starts at $29.95 and goes all the way up to $54.95.
That's correct. Okay, and we have
Those are 4K models and 4.6K models in EF and PL mounts.
That's right, and then we have that 4.6K sensor, which can be upgraded to the regular URSA, and that's
which is kind of cool. It's only $2,000, so you could send in your URSA.
You don't even have to send in the URSA. Actually, you just
it's plug and play.
And we send it out to them, and they can do it themselves. It's basically I relate to it like installing a CPU on a computer. If you can do that with a thermal grease, or we supply a thermal pad, then you're fully capable of upgrading the camera yourself.
Yeah, that's good to go. And then we have when is that due?
So pretty much the way I look at it is all the camera stuff is in the July time frame, and then all the 12 gig stuff is in the May-June time frame.
And then the micro cinema camera is $9.95. Yep. You're insane. Yep. And then there's the studio camera, the studio micro camera, which is $12.95. Yep. You're insane again. Yep. And that's about the same price that the studio camera was. No, a little less than the studio camera last year.
It's less than the HD version, which was $19.95, and the 4K version was actually $29.95. Am I getting that right?
Dude, seriously.
So for $12.95 to be able to get a 4K studio camera, obviously it's a lot of value in there.
And that's going to be in July, and then the B4 connector is coming later in the fall.
Maybe-ish. We have not decided when that's going to be done. We obviously have been looking at B4 a whole lot to see what we want to do there, but we knew the URSA Mini was the next big priority, so that's what we've got for this NAB right now, at least.
Okay, so now the last question: what's on the horizon? I know you're going to deny it.
Yeah, we have a lot to develop there. We haven't even touched the software updates with Resolve 12, Fusion 8. There's a lot of development that we're doing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's talk about that. You also announced an update to Fusion 8.
Yeah, Fusion 8. We had acquired that software last year. We want to just get those guys focused on getting it onto a Mac. It's been a PC version for many years, and we want to get that onto Mac because there's such a big creative group out there that are all on the Mac. Obviously, we've been big supporters of the Apple ecosystem for a long time. So, very first thing we need to do there is to get it on a Mac. And we thought maybe we'd have it kind of mostly working on a Mac. We're showing all of our demos, even our stage demo, running on a Mac. So, it's an incredibly powerful software with this node-based system. It's kind of the secret sauce of Hollywood, and we want to get it out there. We have this great free version for people. We'll get it on the Mac, and we'll just kind of keep building on that.
That's right. You're giving away a free version, much like you have done with the DaVinci. It's going to be a light version. What about 60-80% of the functionality thereabouts?
Well, but pretty much what we learned with Resolve Lite was we should have called Resolve Lite Resolve, and we should have called Resolve the paid version Resolve Pro or whatnot, because Resolve is so powerful in its light format that the light almost seems like a negative towards it. So what we did with Fusion was we basically took the Fusion that you used to pay for, the base model, and that's the free version. There's nothing taking out of it. It's the full Fusion that you would have bought for a couple of grand back in the day. And the Fusion Studio is all the other kind of accessory softwares like Generation and more studio level stuff. That's what you're getting in Fusion Studio. But the actual free version is Fusion. It is the Fusion that used to be charged. So tremendously powerful. We think people, the big trick we have with Fusion is to kind of tell people what it can do for them. There's a lot of great examples of major motion pictures that use Fusion, but for a lot of us, I just want to create a 3D stinger, or I want to do a 3D title, or I want to do a bit of rotoscoping. These are things that I can't just easily do in an NLE that I can start to easily learn how to do in this powerful node-based software. But got to get it on a Mac, got to give it to people for free so they can start learning and working with that application.
And then when you throw in the fact that you can edit in Resolve, so you kind of have just a suite there. Yeah, so you don't even have to get near anything else.
We're working really hard to continue to develop Resolve. Obviously we've been in this industry for a long time. We've worked with a lot of NLE partners. We understand the gravitas of kind of calling it now an NLE. That's not something we take lightly. We've put a ton of work in it over the last 2 years. 11 had a tremendous amount of updates to the editing software. We didn't feel like it was right to call it an NLE at this point, but at some point you're getting to a point where, look, it's doing all of these things. We're going to look foolish if we don't call it what it is. It has all that NLE capability now. Now that makes it, great to work with all the other NLEs that are out there. It makes round tripping easier. We're going to continue to work openly with all of our partners out there, and that's going to be the case.